Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josey. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josey. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josey, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is best practices for short-term rentals. If you want to thrive in the world of short-term rentals, you've got to stand out from the crowd and deliver an experience that keeps guests coming back for more. It's not just about having a cute space, it's about running your rental like a business and treating every guest like a VIP. Here are 5 actionable tips to level up your short-term rental game. Number 1, prioritize impeccable cleanliness. First impressions matter, and nothing turns guests off faster than a dusty corner or a stray hair. Invest in a rockstar cleaning crew, double-check their work, and do regular deep cleans. Sparkling spaces lead to glowing reviews, so don't cut corners. Number 2, automate your guest communication. Save yourself time and boost guest satisfaction by setting up automated messages for check-in instructions, house rules, and local recommendations. Clear, friendly communication makes guests feel cared for and helps prevent misunderstandings before they start. Number 3, create a 5-star welcome experience. Go the extra mile with thoughtful touches, a welcome basket, local snacks, or even a handwritten note. Make sure your property guide is easy to find and packed with tips for enjoying the neighborhood. A memorable welcome sets the tone for the entire stay. Number 4, stay on top of maintenance and repairs. Don't wait for a guest to report a leaky faucet or a broken lamp. Schedule regular inspections and fix issues fast. Proactive maintenance keeps your property in top shape and shows guests you care about their comfort. And number 5, encourage and respond to guest reviews. After each stay, politely ask guests for honest feedback and always respond, especially if it's a negative review. Thank guests for their input, address concerns with professionalism, and show future guests you're committed to continuous improvement. So, RAIN Nation, remember, running a badass short-term rental is about more than just bookings. It's about building a reputation for excellence and hospitality. Focus on these best practices and you'll turn your rental into a profit machine. So go out there and impress your guests with your badassery. Now on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. Today's guest is my friend, Adam Schneider. Adam made the leap from an exciting career in the car rental industry to real estate investing back in 2012. Since then, Adam has built an impressive portfolio. He owns not one, but 2 HomeVestor franchises in North Carolina. He's also a partner at Oakwood Lending, a hard money lending company that provides funding for flips across the state. In 2022, Adam started acquiring properties for cash and selling them with owner financing. And by 2024, he was even selling short-term rentals with owner financing. When he's not closing deals, you'll probably find Adam on a pickleball court or off exploring new destinations. It's my pleasure to have him back on the show, so welcome, Adam Schneider. How are you, sir?
This is the best introduction I've ever had. I want to go ahead and just run through a wall or something. That is awesome.
Well,
I'm,
thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you for coming back on the show. By the way, I looked it up. You were on my episode 42 back in 2021, and this is going to be episode 271. I know, crazy. So, and I remember we just had such a blast back in 2021. So I'm thrilled to have you back on. Enough about me. So, give us a little background on you. How did you get started in real estate?
well, first of all, in 2021, we were just jumping into COVID when we talked. So
Right.
we had a lot of stuff going on, and it was a welcome reprieve from that to spend time with you. And that was one of my favorite podcasts that I've been on. So thanks
Well,
for doing
thank
that.
you. Yes,
Yeah.
lots of laughs in that one.
Yeah. The car rental industry is what brought me to North Carolina. And when that ended in 2012, and by the way, I don't ever want to talk about that industry again. I'd rather talk about pickleball and real estate. I didn't know what I was doing. I think you were sort of the same when you jumped into real estate.
Yep, exactly.
And so I wanted to be part of a system. I had read a book called The E Myth Revisited, and it
Hmm.
talked about being part of a system or a network versus trying it on your own. And that really was a guiding light. And so I joined Home Investors, the We Buy Ugly Houses people, and I was really bad at it. Because as you know, you when you make offers with people with off-market properties, you put every repair in there, and I put every repair known to mankind into everything. So it depressed every offer. So nobody took my offer, and so everyone rejected it. But because of my dating experience in high school, I was very comfortable with the rejection all the time. So anyway, finally somebody said yes to an offer, and I don't know if she was more afraid or I was, but that the rest is history, as they say.
Very nice. Where did you live before Raleigh, North Carolina?
So Los Angeles was home.
Wow.
I went to college in Philadelphia, back to Los Angeles, and then through the previous work, bounced around to Baltimore and St. Louis, and
Ah,
then came to Raleigh in 2004. And we thought we'd be here 2 or 3 years, and that was 2 decades ago.
and I'm from South Florida, and you could not pay me to move back to South Florida. Do you feel the same thing with LA, or would you love to go back to LA?
Well, it is so fun to go back for really short periods of time. The weather's great, the activity's great. I've got family there. It's a lot of work to travel around there, and it's gotten so expensive that it's really tough.
Yes, I have some students in that area. And in fact, any of my students in California, just it's tough finding deals out there. So we are in a great space here in North Carolina. So let's go. Today, we're talking about owner financing. And I love that you're going to break down this topic. But go back to home investors really quick. So how has that benefited your business? Because you own not one but two franchises. And by the way, also explain the We Buy Ugly Houses because people use that in marketing. And you get in big trouble. You taught me this one time. So, but tell me about home investors and how has it benefited your business?
So Home Investors is a franchise system. It's based out of Dallas. It is the We Buy Ugly Houses people. We try to confuse everybody by having two different names for the same thing. And some people get offended when you talk to them and you say we buy ugly houses because their house isn't ugly and they get
Right.
pissed off. But other people appreciate it because they know that we aren't going to be judgmental about it. But the reality, like is most of the time it's people in an ugly situation, not an ugly house. And so investors are often problem solvers with terms and conditions being more important than anything else. So for me, it was important because it brought a system, and I'm not great with creating my own systems. And it's really strong with its secret sauce of lead generation. We have a bunch of people get together in an advertising council in an area. We all share in funding, and then it allows for more sophisticated advertising. So it's not just cards, it might be billboards and paid search strategy, television, radio. And then when leads come in, they get allocated to franchisees based on a rotation, and there's no cannibalism on it. And
Nice.
then there's the network part. So I know you were part of a network organization as
Hmm.
well. And being an individual real estate investor can be so lonely. And so you having other people that you surround yourself with is so powerful. Like in your case, you moved next door to another real estate investor just so you could have someone to talk to about it. But
We,
being
we
part
have
of
a
a
water
network,
cooler right in between our houses, so we can go have water cooler
right?
talks.
That's your water cooler chat. So that's there's so much value, I think, in the network, the systems, and the lead generation.
And let's talk about We Buy Ugly Houses because that's trademarked.
That is trademarked. So there's a difference between we buy houses that's not trademarked and we buy ugly houses that is trademarked. And the legal people spend a lot of time protecting that brand because there's a lot of one-off mom and pop people who really don't know what they're doing,
Hmm.
who use that terminology, and it really confuses sellers and others around. And it's not good when you have inexperienced people doing things and you get sucked into it.
Right. Because I've actually heard of people getting busted for using those words and getting in big trouble. So thank you for that. And also another thing I want to talk about before we get into our main topic here is let's talk about Oakwood Lending. How did that get started and who is your ideal client for that? That's always an important question I ask lenders.
So if somebody's never worked with a hard money lender and they've only worked with a bank lender, they start off by being confused with hard money loans because hard money loans, they're called hard money loans because they're based on the hard asset, the property, versus based so much on someone's credit worthiness. And so they're underwritten differently, as you know. So what I tell people with a bank loan is you're going to have the lowest rate and the longest term, but the most aggravation, and you'll have to bring the most money to the table. And the hard money lenders are the opposite. You'll have a higher rate, you'll have a short term, it'll be quicker and easier, and you won't have to bring nearly as much money to the table. And so when you're someone who's making an offer to buy a house from an off market, from a seller or a wholesaler, and it's competitive, you need to be bringing in what's essentially a cash offer.
Hmm.
And a bank is not considered a cash offer where a hard money loan is. So in 2014, I met a buddy in the neighborhood and we saw an opportunity to get into the space. And so we created Oakwood Lending. We do loans, thanks for asking about it, by the way, in North
Yes.
Carolina. And we are not an MLO. So for those who don't know, MLO is a mortgage loan originator, or people might hear an RMLO, residential mortgage loan originator, where you have to be licensed to provide loans to individuals. But when you're working with a business like one of your LLCs, that's a business to business loan. You don't have to be licensed
Hmm.
in North Carolina, and that's our target audience. Specifically, we don't like really big, gigantic rehabs like some of the stuff you do. Some you don't do big ones. But when it's 100,000, 150,000 rehab, we don't like those. We like the really easy cookie cutter 30, 40, 50,000. So that's what we look for. We stay in North Carolina because we understand what all the laws are and it's consistent there. And we are comfortable in the rural space in North
Oh,
Carolina. And we do a lot of manufactured homes. We lend a lot
really?
on that, which is different than some other lenders.
That's huge.
Yeah, and we try to price ourselves so we're not the least expensive, not the most expensive. We don't require an appraisal, so that allows for a quick turnaround. So we had a loan request come in yesterday and they want to close on Monday, today being Friday. So 3, 4 day turnaround.
Wow. So, do you do DSCR loans?
We don't do DSCR
Okay.
loans.
Yeah, because trying to find a DSCR loan for a rural area has been quite challenging. So, anyway, I was going to like,
That
ooh,
that's right. Yeah,
yes.
we've heard that.
And do you allow second positions?
No second positions.
And do you work with first? Do you work with first time flippers?
We'll work with first time flippers. We change
Oh,
the underwriting in that we want a little more skin in the game and we become more restrictive in terms of the size of the rehab.
got it. All right.
So if you think about it, it's the rehab that is a real challenge for a lot of flippers when you get into the big size and you're starting to bust through walls and you need permits. That's when things really spiral.
I would say so from
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, if you are in North Carolina, you've got to check out Oakwood Lending, and Adam is just so easy to work with if you need that quick close and turnaround. So I love that you threw out the whole appraisal thing. So thanks for that. All right. We are going to get into today's topic, which is seller financing. And we want to be very specific here because this is not seller financing to investors. You are doing this to people who want to get into home ownership. So I love this concept because rates are high. They're actually starting to come down. We're seeing a little bit better, real estate sales increasing, and so things I'm hoping are starting to turn around. But for a long time, it was a big struggle for people who have great jobs, maybe don't have the credit to get into home ownership. So and not to, of course, you have the people who we need affordable housing as well. So I love this concept. So tell me how you got involved with owner financing.
Okay, this is one of my favorite topics. So
I
some
love
people don't
this.
know, but seller finance and owner finance are the same thing.
Okay.
For some reason, we bounce around with how we term them, but a lot of the stuff in our space in real estate investing has so many different terms, and we really do a good job of confusing people. So I'll try to minimize that. And you did a good job of pointing out that we're talking today about owner financing for the how to owner finance to help someone to be a buyer, not a buyer who is an investor. So that's a
Right.
critical part. So here's how it works. So in 2021, I started investing in short-term rentals, and I had three short-term rentals. Two were in Durham, North Carolina. One was in Garner, North Carolina. And I outsourced it with a property manager. And for 2 years, they were going fine. 24 and 25, because I'm so good at this, I think I only lost money 10 out of 12 months in each of those 2 years. So the market changed, as you know,
Right.
and they just weren't worthwhile. And I was trying to figure out what to do with those. So that was part of it. I wanted to get out of the short-term rental space. I know that that's your wheelhouse. It's not my
I love
wheelhouse.
it.
That's part one. Chapter two. I'm married and I have two daughters who are young adults in their early 20s. And I have a rental portfolio, and I had asked them if they were interested in taking over those rentals when the time was right. And they both said, absolutely no way. They, they wanted nothing to do with it. So you can see what a great job I've done about showing how fun this is.
I laugh because so many people get into this industry because they want to create that legacy for their family. And you're just like, nope, I don't want any part of that. So,
And then I asked my wife, I said, so let's say I die quickly. Are you interested in the rentals? And she said no. So, in fairness, because I buy rentals throughout North Carolina, I have so many different property managers because nobody handles all the geography. And you have so many different banks for the loans and
right.
different insurance carriers and so on. And it's pretty complicated to keep up with once you get to a certain point of doing all this if you're outsourcing it to the different ones. So I was trying to figure out what was going to happen. What was the next step going to be? So then that's chapter two. Chapter three, I was helping a friend doing a podcast and we interviewed a guy and he started talking about this. And this guy in Arizona, his name is Bob. He gets on the radio every week. He talks about wealth management, talks about real estate, talks about what retirees should do with their money. And he was doing this owner finance concept. And then this other guy in Texas was talking about it. And then a mutual friend of ours here was doing this.
Cindy,
Uh,
right? Yes.
Cindy,
Okay.
yep. So she's like, you just get rid of your short-term rentals and just sell them with owner financing. And so what happens is when you sell things with owner financing, you create a long-term note. So I used to usually do 30-year notes, and you have an interest rate it's going to be higher than a bank rate, but you want to make it so that your payments for this person are roughly what a market rent would be.
Okay.
And that ends up being, let's just call it 10% right now.
Okay.
And so when you shift people from, when you shift from being a landlord to being a bank, your downside is you don't get a lot of write-offs. Your downside is you don't get to get the appreciation from the property.
Ah, good point.
But your upside is that you shift from being so active to being really passive.
Mm.
And so you're not chasing stuff, you're not dealing with repairs and all of those kinds of things. Somebody else is dealing with them. So the cash flow is stronger.
Nice.
That's balanced out by the fact that you're going to miss out on appreciation. And then you just need to decide on how you want to balance whether you want to make it's all about the money or it's about your time. So that's how I got started with it.
I love it. And I love the whole passive aspect of it. And I love not having to maintain it and say, oh, my dishwasher broke again, so, wearing the landlord hat. So I'm so excited about this concept. So walk us through a typical owner financing deal that you have structured. Pick one of them. And what does that process look like? Are you converting your current rentals? Are you buying distressed properties? What does that look like to you?
Yeah. So there's three different kinds of product. One product is something that would have been fully renovated. It would have been used as an Airbnb, as an example. So that's going to be treated one way.
Okay.
Then you're going to have one which is completely livable, financeable, outdated home. And then you're going to have one that's going to need repairs done. So all of these are different products. And so they're treated differently with a couple of things. So the down payment, you have to decide. First of all, when you're dealing with this owner finance stuff, Jen, there aren't comps. So you have no idea really what it's worth 30 years from now. You don't know what others think it's worth. You don't know what a down payment should be. What should the monthly payment be? And so you're really figuring this out as you go. It's sort of like being a self-taught golfer and you're taking a bunch of swings and you're hoping it works. And maybe you find another self-taught golfer and you ask them what they were doing. So it's more art than science on it. That's what I'll say. So the first thing in terms of the down payment logic is it's usually 10 or 15%. But if the product is in immaculate condition, then you're going to have a higher down payment because you have a higher risk of it being
Okay.
ruined by the person. If the product needs a lot of work, that's the opposite. It's not going to get any worse than it is. You need a lower down payment. So that's sort of the logic on the down payment and the affordability. I always look to see what the market rents are in the area. And then I want to back into it so that the payments that this person's going to make are right in the ballpark because they're going to have their PITI, their principal, interest, tax, insurance, and a loan servicing fee. So if the market rents are around 2,000 a month, I want to be 1,800 to 2,300 a month for them all in, but now they're the owner of the property.
Nice.
So that's part of how I back into the pricing for it and the interest rate
And
structure.
what about the loan length?
So I run the loan length as a 30-year loan.
Hmm.
They're never going to go 30 years.
Okay.
So when you're in this space, and if you're doing enough of these, you suddenly jump into the fact that you have Dodd-Frank restrictions. So Dodd-Frank says that if you're doing these loans to individuals as opposed to LLCs, that you can't have a balloon payment. You can't run it with a 30-year AM and a 10-year period where they have to pay it off. You've got to run it the whole way through. So because you can't do something that's 10 years, if I did it for 10 years, it would be non-affordable from a monthly payment standpoint.
Right. Yep.
There's no prepayment penalties. So if the people's life changes and they want to pay it off early, they can pay it off at any time they want. But for now, I'm running them for a 30-year note. And what's going to happen is they're never going to go 30 years. They're either going to close out early or need to leave early for any number of reasons. But that creates the payment. And what happens is, I'll go into the structure here. This will help. So when people let's go at the very beginning. I find a property, I buy it. Maybe it was a rental, the tenant left, and now I decide I want to sell with owner financing. The first thing I have to do is figure out how to market it. That's really hard. So it's Facebook Marketplace, it's signs in the yard that
Hmm.
say owner finance, and they say dueño a dueño, owner to owner in Spanish. We've created an ncownerfinancehomes.com website that I've
Nice.
got two friends, Cindy and a guy named Mike, and we all combine and we put our properties on that. You then go to a lot of real estate investor meetups and you look for Hispanic brokers that are involved in this. You talk to anybody you can. You talk to contractors. I've got one where the contractor wanted to buy the house because he's a roofer, because he wanted a place for all of his employees to be able to stay. So you're
Aw.
just talking to everybody you can who might have any interest in this thing
Yeah, I
to
know
find some.
Cindy like focuses on her contractors.
Cindy does focus on
Yeah,
contractors.
I
Yeah.
love that. And
Yeah.
that way you don't have to do as many renovations because they'll go in and do it themselves. So
That's exactly right.
I love that.
That's
All right.
exactly right. So the first part is there's heavy lifting to find the person because if someone qualified for a bank loan, they wouldn't buy it with owner financing because the bank loans are lower than the owner finance rates. If you can get a bank rate for 7%, why would you pay 10%? Makes no
Right.
sense. So you're looking for people who can't qualify or don't want to deal with banks. We deal with people with ITINs. We deal with people who had a little bit of a bump in the road, but they can show proof of payment that they're now on track, that they can make the payment. So what we tell people is their income has to be enough so that it supports this. So it's 28%. So if they make 10,000 a month, they could afford to make payments of $2,800.
Okay.
If my payments are 14, if the PITI with the loan servicing is going to cost them 1,400 a month for easy math, then I know that they need to make 5,000 a month. 28% of 5,000 is the 1,400.
Got it.
So I know what my payments are that they're going to have to make. So I can just tell people roughly what they're going to have to earn. So that speeds that up. And it's important because I use a third party loan servicing company to underwrite them. So I use an outfit out of Arizona. So once we found the potential buyer, they need to send all their paperwork and make sure it's approved by this third party loan servicing company.
Got it.
They come to me and they say, this person can do it, they can't do it. Because what I don't want to do, Jen, is I don't want to do a deal with someone who is likely not able to make the payments.
Right. Because that's my next question is what happens if they don't make the payments? You take ownership of the property back, correct?
So I've not had to take ownership back
Good.
of a property,
Wow.
but that's only because I haven't done it long enough to have that happen, I think. Uh, we have a couple who don't make payments consistently, but they always make payments eventually. But if they don't make the payment, then the loan servicing company, which I'll get to, they deal with notifying them. But at some point, you're going to have a conversation and people have to decide if they want to give keys back, if they want to close out, if they want to renegotiate, or otherwise we'd have to foreclose on it.
Got it.
But that's some people are loan to own people and that's part of their strategy. I really don't want the properties back. I'm really trying to figure it out, but I don't want to jump into it in the very beginning, knowing that these people are high risk of not being able to make their payments.
Very, very smart.
So that's the underwriting that loan servicing company. That costs 400 or 500 bucks. And the way that works is I front the payment for that. And if these people qualify, then they reimburse me on the HUD when we close.
Good.
Then you got to find a closing attorney, Jen,
Yes.
who's ready, willing, and able to deal with these.
That's probably not easy.
So there's not very many. So there are some if you once you find one you want to lock and load. So I've got a conversation as an example with a lady to Monday to see if she's interested in this as an attorney because she doesn't understand it. I want to see if she wants to do it because she's in a small local market. So that's a process. And there's two ways to structure these. There's owner financing or a contract for deed.
Yes.
Go ahead,
What
you're
is
about to say something.
No, that's one of my questions coming up because I don't know the difference between the two. I really don't understand contract for deed, what that means.
Yep. So let's pretend you're the buyer,
Okay.
I'm the seller. We agree on terms and down payments and all that stuff. We go to the closing attorney. If we do it as a pure owner finance, then I sign the deed, the warranty deed over to you. I'm the grantor, you're the grantee, and now you own the property,
Okay.
right? Anything that happens, it's you. I have no rights to the property. I'm just the bank, and I've got a deed of trust, just like a bank would have a deed of trust.
Okay.
That's that. Now, if we sell it with owner financing, if I sell it with you with owner financing, I get taxed on our sale price, even though I don't get all that money.
Hmm.
So if I bought a property for 200,000 and I sold it to you for 300,000, I get taxed on a $100,000 gain,
Oh,
even though you only paid me a down payment of $25,000.
okay.
So that's a negative, is that it's cash negative with the taxes. So what's a way to work around it? So if instead we sold it with a contract for deed, what that means, it's also called a land contract, is in that case, you don't have a warranty deed to it. I still own it, but you've got the position on it, so I can't sell it to anybody else.
Okay.
So you have all rights to finish the purchase whenever you can, but at this point, you don't have the deed for it. And so what then happens is I don't get taxed on the 300,000. I only get taxed on the down payment that you gave me
Ooh,
and on the payments that you made each month.
this is huge. So it's called contract for deed or also land deed.
Land contract.
Land contract.
And
Okay.
it's got a couple other names, but that's the same thing. And so that's very helpful because it totally changes everything with how the taxes are. That totally tweaks the whole thing there.
This is mind blowing. I love all of this. So, and people are doing it. You said Arizona and Texas. You're hearing people do these things, and
Yeah, they do them all over. So one of the factors is the foreclosure laws. So sometimes when people are deciding on structuring these as land as a contract for deed or a clean owner financing with the title moving, some of those decisions are based on the foreclosure laws of the state. So if it's more difficult to foreclose, they might go one way. If it's easier to foreclose, they go a different way. So each state's got its own nuances and restrictions about what you can and can't do. But those are the two ways you can
got it.
structure them.
And then what if somebody is just moving away and needs to sell the house? Just a regular, I mean, wash, rinse, and repeat. Like buy because you still have the contract for deed.
You can sell it.
Okay. But I mean, for the person who I'm talking about the person living there. What does that look like to them? So they have no equity of any sort to help put as a down payment somewhere else. I mean, because it's totally different because it's still in your name, though, correct?
Yeah, what they would do is let's pretend that you're a contract for deed for 300,000 and you've owned it for a while and you've been involved in this for a while and you put down your down payment and you've made payments of 100,000, let's just say.
Okay.
And then you find a retail buyer to buy it for 300. You can just find the retail buyer. The attorney does all the
Okay.
paperwork and you just move on and you're gonna go ahead and you've already made your 100,000 of payments. You only had to short off the 200. That's
So
just
I would
normal.
be selling it and listing it on the MLS as opposed to you.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that. All right. One of the terms that you had in your pre podcast notes here was hypothecating.
Ooh, okay. We're
I'm
gonna
just,
get there, but
oh, we're not there yet? Okay. Because,
can I put a bookmark on that real quick?
yes, because I don't even know what that is. But anyway, keep
Okay.
going.
Yeah. So going through the process, so the first thing is you buy, if you're the person doing what I do, you buy the house, then you got to find the person to buy it from you. You go through the underwriting process, the attorney does the closing, and then there's a third party loan servicing company. So your payments are going to go to the loan servicing company, and they're going to keep track of all that paperwork. As I said earlier, I don't like systems. I don't like tracking all that. They'll give you the heads up and the notification, what's escrowed, the taxes, just like a normal bank will. And that's the part that makes it really passive for you as a creator of a note
Mm.
because you're not having to track all that. The borrower is paying this company, and then the money just comes to you. So now, when I die, instead of having all these rentals and the property managers, it's just payments that are just going to the next person in your legacy wealth plan.
I
That's the
love that.
that's the difference maker.
And thank you for bringing that full circle because now your wife and your two daughters are happy because they're just receiving checks without the headaches.
Exactly right.
Very
That's
good.
the aha moment. All
And
right, now go on, go back to your hypothecation.
okay, by the way, did you know that when Walt Disney died, he left the all the money made in parking at all of his parks? That's what he left to his family was the income coming in from parking.
Really?
Yes.
How
So
do you know that?
I used to work for Disney. So
You
that was,
did?
I did. Yes. I went to college in Orlando. So, but anyway, it just kind of reminds me of that where there's no headaches, no management going on. Just send me that money from the parking. That's what he left for his family.
Huh. I watched a pod or listened to a podcast about Walt Disney. They were having a rough time for a while, and the show The Lone Ranger was the show that saved them.
Really?
Yep. Little known fact there, since you wanted to start with Walt Disney. I got you.
I love me some Walt Disney trivia. So we could totally go a different direction in this podcast. But let's get to this hypothecating. I just like saying that word. I don't know what the hell it means, but I would love for you to explain it to me and the audience.
Yeah, if you ever want to sound smart or smarter than you are, use words that nobody else knows that you just learned the day before. That's the best
Hypothecating.
way. So here's how this works, Jen. So we'll go with this example of I buy a house for $100,000 and I sell it with owner financing for 170 to you, and you put down $20,000. So now there's a $150,000 note. Okay. So if I had unlimited cash, I could just keep doing this over and over. But let's just pretend that I don't have unlimited cash and I actually need my cash back, which is the way we all operate. So I use my 100,000 in cash, but now I want my money back so I can redo this. So I've got a note that's for 150,000 that I've created that's bringing in a certain amount of revenue every month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find somebody whom I know who's an investor, and I'm going to borrow money from them. So let's say that you're the end buyer and you bought the house at 10% interest. I'm going to go to my other friend, Vance,
Yes.
and I'm going to say, Vance, are you interested in lending any money out? You said you had money in your self-directed IRA. And he says he's got $95,000 in there. And I said, great. Are you interested in lending it out to me at 9%? And he says, yes. I said, I've got collateral. My collateral is not a house. My collateral is a promissory note.
Okay.
So that's called a note hypothecation. He's lending me money with the collateral not being the house, but being the note that I've created.
Okay.
So now Vance didn't know what to do with his $95,112. And then he knows me and he sees that there's a property that's got equity and he sees that there's a note. And so he's going to lend me 9% on it. At 9%, I borrow from 9. So he says, well, how long is your note for that 150,000? I say 30 years. And he goes, I don't want to do 30 years. Then I say, Vance, well, how long do you want to do it for? And he says, I'd like to do it for 7 years. Fine. Let's do it for 7 years. So now Vance has the exact time that he wanted to lend money out at the rate that works for him with the collateral that he is comfortable with, and he knows me, and I get essentially my money back. And then I do it again. Now, let's say, Jen, make it more complicated. Let's say that I bought a property for 150, we'll make it more realistic, and I created a note for 250 and you put down 25,000, so there's 225 left. But I just want to get my 150 back. And Vance said that he's got 95,000 in his self-directed that he wants to use. Fine. And I said, "Do you know anyone else who's got another 55 lying around?" He goes, "Actually, my cousin does." So I go, "Well, I'll do the same thing with him for 55." So that's a partial. So a partial note for one and a partial for the
Wow.
other. And so all of a sudden, instead of telling people that you need this much money, you're seeing who has money that they want to put out that lines up with it and just match it up. And so that's how that works. So that's a note hypothecation. It's a note that's loaned against another note.
Hypothecation. I just think there is a huge need for that. So, one of my girlfriends, who is a private money lender for me, her money's sitting in a self directed IRA. And she's like, "Jen, where are your deals?" Because her money in the self directed IRA is not earning any interest until I bring her deals. So, this is a way for them to, and by the way, when she lends me money, I do a balloon payment at the end of the project, which is going to either be 6 to 8 months. So she's only earning interest for that time. So now she can go to someone like Adam and say, "I will do this for, I'm going to retire at whatever age. So let me do this for 12 years and get it to the retirement." So she has that guaranteed interest coming in. Now, is it a balloon payment at the end, or I guess, does it really matter?
It's amortized.
Okay.
It's amortized because what you don't want to have happen is that the end buyer is paying down everything and the note hypothecation lender is on that same level because you need to have equity in the deal
Okay.
because there's the cushion there. That's the safety net because you really want to be at about a 70% loan to value
Okay.
kind of thing. So you want to go down as it goes down. Now, the part that gets a little bit wonky, which is another really fancy word that I've made for this, is some of these things don't happen exactly as they're written out on paper. So
Okay.
let's just pretend that the end buyer closed out early and they close out in 4 years.
Okay.
Well, I need to go to you and say to Vance and say, "Vance, this note we got together, they're closing out. So I can either give you all your money back now, or if you want, I can find another use for it and deploy it again.
Mm.
What would you like to do?"
I love that. So how are you paying interest? So you're collecting rents from the person who's buying the property through owner financing, and are you putting interest payments in annually? Are you doing a balloon payment at the end? Tell me about that part.
Monthly payments.
Monthly. Okay.
Yeah, everything's monthly.
Okay. Wow. That is amazing. I just got to let that sit in my brain for a second. Why is everybody not doing this?
So I'll tell you why.
Okay,
You ready?
please.
It's really hard.
Ah,
So, so the first part is you've got to find a property that you're buying at a discount. So you've got to kiss a lot of frogs,
mm,
as they say, to find that. The second part is you have to have the cash to do it. Then you got to run around to find your buyers. It's really hard to find the buyers
gotcha.
who qualify but don't qualify for the bank loan and that whole drill. So then you have to find the people who have the money. And I've got a, depending on if you have time, I've got a good fun story, but depends on
I,
how we are on time.
I love stories, but so doing this process, you have a website created. So if somebody is listening and they're in North Carolina and they're thinking, "Gosh, this would be perfect for my cement guy." My cement guy is over pouring steps at our new build right now. So, but he needs a place to live. So what are the steps that I would tell him to do? Go to this website.
Yeah, so he could go to the website, he could enter in his name, and then depending on where the territory is that someone's looking for, because I said we have two partners, we sort of each have different areas that we generally cover, but let us know where they're looking. And so if we know that we have a buyer who's qualified, who's looking, then we can reverse engineer it and be
Okay.
more aggressive with buying stuff.
Got
So
it.
one lady, funny enough, one lady said that she was looking for a property in Durham that she wanted to do as a short-term rental. Once I knew that, I matched up with the property and it worked out.
Very, very cool. All right. So, for the listeners out there listening and they want to try this strategy, what is the first step they need to do to get started?
Buy a house.
All right. Perfect.
The first step is to buy a house. So the first two deals that I did were great for the learning, and I really just mucked them up. I I didn't have my numbers right, the pricing. I didn't understand the value of a property because these properties have different values with owner financing and different kinds of people who are likely buyers and all that. And so I mucked that up and I didn't get the terms right and I just made mistakes, but they were really small dollar amounts, relatively speaking. So it was fine. So you make your mistakes on small stuff. But anyway, buy a house. Then you've got to figure out how you're going to market it to find your buyer. So different people are going to have different strategies on that. Once you have your buyer, you need to have a lending or an underwriting company. Now, if you're only doing one of these, if you're just doing this for your friend or family, you don't have all of the same legal restrictions with Dodd-Frank and just do a deal and you'll be fine. It's one of them, no biggie. If you're going to make this into something you're doing as a business, then you need to find the underwriting company that you can work with. Once that's happened, you need to find the closing attorney
Mm.
that's going to do it. And that's more of a question and answer. So this week, I wanted an attorney to help me write up a lease option contract, and the attorney was hesitant about doing option contracts because of something she heard. She's very conservative with that kind of stuff. So each attorney does stuff differently. So you have to make sure you've got that right attorney. And then you need to have the loan servicing company. And there's a bunch of different loan servicing companies out there, and they don't all act the same way. So you do have a lot of work to do because there's so many people involved.
Huge. All right. So, before we go in the second part of the podcast here, what is this funny story about? What was it about financing you said?
Well, it's this whole thing. So anyway, so the guy Bob I told you about in Arizona,
Okay.
he had this seminar. So I go out on this seminar, and Cindy was there and some other people. And at the seminar, he says that we're going to have a retreat in the summer in Montana and get together. Who wants to go? And I said, well, when is it? And he says, well, we don't have a date, but it's somewhere in July. And I said, well, how much is it? He goes, well, we don't know yet. And I said, well, what are the dates? He goes, we don't have that yet. I was like, are you serious? And Cindy says, oh, and he says he wants a $250 deposit for Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I said, Cindy, is he serious? She goes, he's serious. You have to go. This is where you're going to meet all these people. Just pay the 250. Fine, I paid the 250. So I called my wife and I said, hey, we're going to Montana. She goes, let me get my calendar. I said, don't even bother. So anyway, so we went to Montana and met all these people who are the people who want to do the note hypothecation lending. And I had no idea it was going to happen and like no idea who these people were, but that's what you got to do when you're investing in time into these new kinds of things.
And that's why you need great people in your life who say, Adam, just pay the 250. This is what you
Just pay
need.
the
So,
250.
yes, I love that. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I love having you on here, Adam, because you are an educator at heart to me. And you do such a great job explaining things. And I am totally going to start checking some of this out because there's such a need for affordable housing right now. And that path to homeownership is so important. And people have a hard time doing it. So this is just a great strategy. And listeners out there, check into this. What's a good way for them to get in touch with you if they have any questions?
Well, first of all, I do want to say one thing that I haven't
Okay.
mentioned because we've been going through the mechanics. You've touched on it a couple times. I'm so glad you did it. Is I don't know if I'm going to earn my angel's wings or anything like that or get into sainthood, but there comes a time in your life where you do want to do things to help people. And when you go to the closing table with these people who thought that they would never be able to own a home and they're signing paperwork and now they get to own a home, there are people crying
Ugh,
at the closing table. I mean, it is for not for everybody, but for some people, they bring their whole family to this closing, and it is so emotional, and it's just a heartwarming thing to know that you helped somebody who thought that they weren't ever going to get to be a homeowner, and that's really hit home for me. So anyway, you can email me, Adam at oakwoodlending.com. That's the easiest way.
Yeah.
I've got a LinkedIn. You can go hit me up on LinkedIn. You can go to our NC, ownerfinancehomes.com, or they can reach out to you and then you can tell them how to hook up with me.
Absolutely. Well, Adam, this has been amazing. We are going to move to the second part of the podcast here, which is what makes Adam Schneider a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. What is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Die with zero.
Someone else said that one recently. So I gotta check out this book, Die with Zero. So tell me about it.
So Die with Zero, it's a bit of a long read and it's a lot of details, but there's two main themes that this guy had. So he's not saying that you want to die with zero because you want to be poor your whole life. He's saying that if you can afford things, you shouldn't just be trying to make it so that all you do is you do nothing with your life and then you die with all this money. So you don't want to retire and then say you're going to do all these fun things, but now you don't have your health there. Do stuff when you have your health. That's the first part of it. Then the second part is he was giving an example. So let's say you've got enough money so you know that you'll have money until the latest age that you would die, whatever that is. And you have enough for that. So you're good there. And you have extra money and you're going to go ahead and give it to your kids or your nieces and nephews or whoever. Well, if I give it to my kids when I'm 85 and I die and they're 55 or 60, they don't need it then. They need it when they're 25 or
Mm,
30.
yep.
They need it to buy a home, to pay off student debt. Da, 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 da. So he shifted my mindset from saving all this money until I die to moving money to the people who need it when they need it.
Wow. I love that concept. And by the way, I need some money if you need to shift any my way. Just let me know. Okay.
Well, this is all in concept. This I like the book in concept. Reality, yeah, we all got to pay our bills.
Yes, we do. So thank you for sharing that. All right. The first A in badass is for advice. You have given us excellent advice, but what's the best piece of advice you've ever received besides the pay the 250 bucks?
Shoot first and ask questions later if it's not too high of a risk. Just get in there and do it. How many people have you talked to who say that they want to get into real estate,
Mm,
but they spend so much time analyzing everything that by the time they're done analyzing it, that ship has sailed.
yes.
Get in there and do your first deal, whatever your first deal is, and do it with a small risk, small reward model, and just do it and live through that whole cycle from birth to grave of that deal. You'll be so much more confident in your next deal when it starts to matter.
Absolutely. And you did that with your first two properties that you were saying because
Yep.
learning through doing, and that's huge. And I coach students all over the United States, some in Canada as well, but they want to wait till they know everything about real estate before they jump in. And by the way, I don't know everything about real estate. I have jumped in, so I think that is very, very good advice. Thank you for that. All right. The D in badass is for drive. What drives Adam Schneider to be successful?
This part gets harder, Jen, because I think it's a fear of failure, avoiding failure more than chasing towards success. And success is a really vague term. It means a lot of different things for different
Right.
people. I think there's a social feeling of success. Some people have a financial feeling. I want to be at a point where I get to choose what I want to do instead of being forced to do
Mm.
what I don't want to do. So the more I move to that where I can control it, then I feel like that might be a way where I think of as being more successful.
So well said. All right. The second A in badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
Jen, this is bad. This is embarrassing, but I'm not a goal setting person. I just am not. It's
You don't have any dreams, any pipe dreams, anything?
very low. It's really low on the goal setting. It's life enjoyment and some really cliche stuff about family and how to spend time, but there's not one specific thing that's just driving me to do it. I'm just at a stage where I'm enjoying life and want to be there to help other people.
I bet you have a goal of getting better at pickleball.
I do have pickleball goals. I do have, but when people say that they want to really get better, to really get better, you'd have to actually commit to drilling and practicing for 6 hours a day. And I just like playing. So I do want to get better, but it's not at the speed that some other people really want to get better.
Gotcha. And I've never played pickleball.
It's addicting.
Really, I don't need another addiction. So,
It's addicting.
and Vance was like, "Are we going to play pickleball?" I'm like, "Do I have to beat you at something else?" I'm like, "Come on, Vance, choose your
Ooh,
battles here, because
right.
All right, the first S in badass is for systems. You have said it a few times on the call that you are not into systems, but what systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
So when I partnered with my partner for the lending business, he's all into systems. It's fantastic because I do run around and do the meet and greet, the business development, the underwriting, and he keeps track of all of the systems. He's
Mm,
just a systems person. He's That's his DNA. It's not my DNA. The reason I joined Homevestors is because they forced me to use systems. I That was just perfect for me. But there are a few things that I find that are have been really helpful for me that I wanted to mention. I love using Company Cam for my photos.
okay.
It organizes me. I love using QB Casa for my floor plans.
Ooh,
That's really helpful for me. I love finding others who have really good systems in place. Have you heard of Ivory Homes?
no.
You go to a house, you get your floor plan, you send it to them, give them 3 weeks, and they'll list out all the materials you need for your rehab, where to get them, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
It'll have a link for it. And so you can just give that to your contractor
Mm.
and move through it. So, as much as I'm not good with systems, I keep trying to find others who are good with systems and partner with them in some way.
So your system is to find people who use systems.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some things that are mundane with how you track it and what spreadsheets or what software you use, but there's nothing that's mind blowing.
Right. Gotcha. All right. Well, I could talk to you, Adam, all day. I know you have a lot going on today. So the final S in badass is for success. What does success mean to you?
Yeah, we touched on that just a
Yep.
second ago. I really feel like it's the more you're in control of your life with how you want to spend the time and what you want to do, then that would be the more successful it is from that standpoint. And different people for money, different people have different levels of what they think is success. It's all relative on it. And people aspire to get to certain dollar amounts. That's some arbitrary dollar amount. And then when you ask them why that dollar amount, there's not really a reason.
Nope.
So to me, it's more about just being in the position where you can control your time.
Yep. Or they hit the dollar amount and then they're like, they don't feel that gratification of actually getting there. So yes, I agree on that. So
By the
Adam,
way,
yes.
you are an absolutely fantastic podcast host.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You are an absolutely fantastic podcast guest, and let's not wait 4 years to get you back on the show because you, like I said, you're such a great educator at heart, and just mentioning what you do and being at that closing table with the entire family and they're finally being introduced to homeownership. What a gift you are to so many, Adam, including myself. So thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, so much fun.
Always. Well, I hope I get to see you at the bar soon because well, that's where I like finding you at these meetups. So, Adam, thank you.
Amen.
And that is all. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Now, go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josey by visiting therealjenjosey.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.